Good morning, friends. Today I wanted to share with you just a bit, because I get asked this a lot, how to get loose with your paintings. A lot of you are a little bit challenged by this, and I totally get it. It's a weird feeling not to be in control, not to want to go in and fix, but you can do this, I promise you. And I'm going to give you just some of my little tips on how I achieve this. This is a painting I just did. I have coming up in a tutorial because I used a very interesting medium here. Surprise, but this is basically what it looks like. Very soft, very dreamy. Remembering watercolors, less is always more. Always more. So I've got, just simple brush strokes here, very soft, very washy. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to show you my technique, and you may have your own technique as well. Let's see, this is my Artisto pad, by the way. As you know, I love this little pad. Let me show you the cover, because even the cover is gorgeous. It's upside down, but I do realize, by the way, that outside of the US, it's a little bit more challenging to get. So definitely my second go-to is the MEEDEN 100% cotton paper. Love it. It comes on a block. You can work very wet on it. But for today, I'm going to be using this. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm using my number 8. Actually, here's my number 8 from my brush line, but you can definitely use any Princeton round 8. I love, love, love the Velvet Touch because I like the feeling. It's really snappy, meaning when I use it, and I lift my brush up, it just snaps right back into shape. That point snaps beautifully, and that's why I like the snappy texture. I've got my Paul Rubens student grade paints here. This is the My Lang set. Gorgeous. Look at these beautiful colors. If you've got this, use what you've got. I already kind of dampened these just a bit to kind of get them activated and softened up. And then I have, real important, have your wash, have your rinse water. For watercolors, that's super important to have nice clean water. And I've got my little palette here. Although I'm going to be using some browns and maybe some pinks. I may go into their larger Daisy palette. And notice I don't wash my palettes too often because I like having all these colors, and it kind of pains me when I wash away all my colors. I feel like it's almost a painting that I'm kind of getting rid of. So that's just me, but use whatever palette you tend to be using right now. And then let's play with, let's do a little color swatch here. Let me grab an extra piece of paper. Here we go. I have these Paul Rubens cold press. I use those quite often for my swatches. So let's go ahead and do that. This is something, by the way, you guys told me about. I love it. I use it all the time. I'll link that and all my other supplies, by the way, down below. And just Ranger ink, which has always been my kind of go-to. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to swatch out some of my colors. And I want to use some chocolatey browns. By the way, 2025, the Pantone color is Mocha Mousse. I mean, how delicious does that even sound? Just sounds totally indulgent, doesn't it? And let's see if I can kind of create that Mocha Mousse. It looks like this creamy, yummy, chocolatey, moussey, hot chocolate type color. So here is that. And this is in my Lang palette. I love adding browns to my florals, by the way. I just think it has this really beautiful kind of grounding feel to it. This is also a color I love that I'm going to be trying to incorporate a lot this year. These two, to be honest, they just have numbers. I don't know what they are, but they're kind of blushy pinks, and I think they're gorgeous. Let's see, what other color? Let's see if we can, what color this is. Yeah, that's like a caramel color, and that is the yellow sienna. Ooh, isn't that yummy? I'm kind of a caramel freak, so of course I love that color. Now that blended with this, let's do Quin Magenta, or Quin Rose rather. If you have Quin Magenta, that's fine too. So there is from the My Lang palette, that pinky rose color. And if I really lighten it up, now this isn't really in line with the Pantone pink. This was actually the color last year, but I love how these go together. Now, one thing I could do to bring it more in line with the Pantone color is they've got it a little bit blushier pink. So I could add in some of my titanium white here. That's a gouache, by the way. And it becomes this really pale, almost cotton candy-ish look. And that's kind of their color. They've also got in their palette a little bit of this, they're calling it like a silver blue color, but I would say, let me grab my other palette here. I really do need to wash out my palettes. I'm just gonna put it over here. So by itself, Payne's Gray is pretty dark, but I think if you really lighten it up, it turns into this kind of shadowy, beautiful color. So I love these colors together. I think the blush pinks with the dark, rich browns are gonna be really, really pretty. I'm gonna darken that one up just a little bit. I want it to look like chocolate. I'm still gonna work with some of these colors, and maybe I'll do a video on how I mix them, but I'm really liking this palette here. So let's play a little bit. And you know what, for a green, I might use, let's see, I always kind of go to my olive green. That's just kind of my color. Kind of that muted olive green. And I will definitely be working on refining this color palette as I go here, but I saw it on the Pantone colors and I just thought it was so beautiful. I think this one might need to be a little bit warmed up, but we'll keep playing with these throughout the year. This is actually an example of some of those yummy pinks. All right, so let's play with some loose flowers here. I'm going to pick up that brown, and we always go in, and I've got this in my palette, but it's probably about 50-50, 50 paint, 50 pigment, and then tap it off. And we're gonna go in rather loosely, and I'm going to just using the side of my brush, point, press, and come on down, and let it kind of do its thing here. So this isn't a completely even looking color here, and that's okay. And then let's see, another one over here. You wanna make sure the base of your petals are all going towards the center. So they're all pointing in that same direction like that. Maybe this one is coming around in the back there. And then I might even, let's come down a little bit more. Now here's where too, I might add in that pink. So let's just dab in. Ooh, see how pretty that pink is with the browns? I love that color. I love those two colors mixed together. I think they're just gorgeous. There we go. And notice for that looseness, I'm not getting really detailed with the edges. I'm kind of letting them be a little bit raggedy, a little bit loose. And then let's go to our next flower here. So I'm just going to grab my brush and go from bottom to top this time. So side of my brush, a little bit of pressure, and then using the tip of my brush to follow up on the bottom here. I'm going to do some back petals. So again, using the side of my brush, Pick up a little bit more of that paint. Oops, I grabbed the wrong paint. Let me grab this one here. There we go. And again, about 50, 50, 50 water, 50 pigment. There we go. And in the back here, and I'm keeping, in order to stay loose, I'm keeping my edges of my petal really loose. So I'm not getting too nitpicky here, but look at how pretty brown can be for your flowers. Who said they couldn't be brown? And then adding in a little bit of pink. So lovely. And I'm always trying to do things a little bit different, experiment a little bit with colors and so forth. So mix some unconventional colors together and see what you get. Now I'm going to go into that olivey green. I'm going to water that down. So I've got about 50-50 in there. Now making sure, tap, 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 get that excess paint off. And I'm going to go into this while it's wet. There we go, a little bit more. Bringing that down. I love how these colors mix. And look how pretty that is. Let's do, I'm gonna broaden out some petals right here. So tapping into my brown. Maybe bringing a couple loose petals or maybe falling down. And I think a big part of staying loose is don't go back into it. Like put one brush stroke in. Try and create flowers with one brush stroke. Now I want to add in these little feathery things. So I'm using the tip of my brush. I don't typically hover. When I paint, I keep my side of my hand just anchored on my paper here, and very light pressure. I'm going to bring in these little feathery pieces. I'm going to darken that up a bit and then rinse my brush, pick up some of that brownish color and make these little, I think we used to call them, not cattails. I remember they'd stick to you when you were a kid. And I'm going to maybe put another one right here. So tip of my brush, light pressure. And going in. Now I might want to darken that up a bit. So let's just grab a little bit more of our dark brown and touching in again, keeping it very simple. Like one and done. There's a joke when I teach my my workshop classes, and people that have been in my class before will see somebody new coming in and see them really nitpicking on their painting, and everybody will say, leave it, walk away, because I say that so much. But it's really the key, I think, for staying loose is don't overwork. Simple. See if you can practice your flowers in the least amount of brush strokes as possible and let them be, kind of insignificant. Now I'm going back and just kind of outlining and adding some dark to the inside. Like that. Look how yummy that is. Isn't it just nice and warm and cozy? I love it. So sometimes I think of when I go back in and I'm adding some of these little pieces in there, I think of when I'm using a marker to go back in and outline, and that can be it. So loose flowers, use as least amount of brush strokes as you can. And, I just went in and I added a few other things, but you don't have to do that. Just leave it as it is if you like. And then what I want to do, let's add one more. Where should I put it? Composition wise, I think I could put another one of these little flowers right here. So I'm just using the tip of my brush. There we go. I might go in just to add a tiny bit of interest, touch in. And what's so beautiful in loose painting is a lot of times I love to put just enough where it catches the viewer's eye, but yet it leaves a lot for them to have to fill in and make it kind of their painting. It lets them kind of create. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I've got this pinky color I created. I've got it pretty watered down, so it's fairly light. And I'm going to go in and just add, I don't even know what these are. Just add these little side of my brush, little buds here maybe. Rinse my brush and then grab that brown again. Light pressure. I just think these are kind of cute. There we go. So 1 stroke for those. Now I can go back in if I wanted and add just a tiny touch of dark brown to bring some cohesiveness while they're wet, but very loose. I'm just tapping in, 1 brush stroke here. Just like that. And then I think I will do 1 more of these flowers down in here. So wet in wet, using the side of my brush. Let's just do a little bud maybe. So point, press, making sure all the tips go to the center or bottom of the flower, and then 1 more here. So trying to get as least amount of brush strokes as I possibly can. Add a little bit of pink in there. I'm gonna water that down a tad. Oh, just love the brown and the pink together. And then go into my green, tap, tap, tap some of that extra water off. And I don't even think I'm going to add leaves to this. I don't even think it's necessary. So there you go. I hope that kind of helps, keeping as few brush strokes as possible to keep that loose feel. I've also heard people, now what I'm doing right now, by the way, is I'm just adding some water to the edges of my flowers because that kind of loosens them up as well. It just softens those edges. So I've got a damp, thirsty brush, and that's always a way you can loosen up your flowers too, is just softening those edges like that. So pretty. I feel like this needs a little bit of splatters. So I'm going to take my brown and just splatter, splatter, splatter. And it almost kind of fills in some of those gaps. If you really wanted to give this some extra bling, you can use, let me grab mine. I bet those of you who follow me know what I'm gonna grab. 1 second. Let's see here. Well, I don't know what I did with it. 1 second, 1 second. Can't find it. Well, what I was thinking of doing was adding in just a little touch of gold in there. I think would be really, really pretty. Here we go. So let me open my bag here. I was traveling, so I had these with me. And I've got my gold series in here. You could stop definitely right now, but I love to add that little touch of bling, that little, what's always fun to me, and especially when practicing, one of the reasons I love wet and loose flowers is because it gives your viewers so much creative license to kind of go in and create the image that they want. So I'm going to go in with this gold, hopefully you can see that, and just add in a few little touches. Now that's just me, that may not be your thing, But I love when it kind of makes the viewer question, do I see some sparkle there? And then they can add in some of the little details. That is what I love about watercolors. I think I'll even do some on these, and then I'll hold this up and you can see, but look how much that adds. Just really kind of draws in the eye and makes the viewer say, ooh, I think I see a little something there. So there you go. I hope you give these a try. Look at the beautiful colors. Try softening the edges of your petals if you want. And as least amount of brush strokes as possible for your flowers is always a great way to stay nice and loose and kind of free. Let the watercolors do their thing. And I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget, I have a wonderful online beginners course if you are having fun kind of going around and collecting different videos to learn. I put this together so you have it all in one place, from choosing your supplies to setting up your creative space. There's like 17 lessons and worksheets. You can go back and forth in it, rewatch it, and I hope it's really helpful for you. Meanwhile, I do have my beginners playlist here, by the way, so make sure and check that out. And I hope you give this a try. All right, everybody, happy painting, and thank you for being here in our little community.